Hello, this is Tom. I'm negotiating with Jesus, and we're going to continue to read Mark 3. This is the first 6 verses, Mark 3, 1 through 6. The heading, Jesus Heals on the Sabbath. We're going to keep doing this thing now. Today I had a funeral, and to me, a funeral is a very wonderful thing to be a part of, and it's a little scary, and it's sad, perhaps, and it's not easy to do. You know, it's a trying time. To me, it's this great opportunity because it's rare that people really have everything pushed aside, and you see what's really important. Most of the time, we're like thinking that it's really important that I get home in time to watch Game of Thrones or something. That it's important that the new Avengers movies come in, and I haven't seen it yet, so don't give me any spoilers in the comments below, which you can like and subscribe and comment. Do tell me spoilers, because I want to be spoiled for the new Endgame movie. Tell me what happens so that it will ruin it for me, and I'll shake my fist at you next time. I'll do it this time. So this section, I was talking about funerals, We'll talk about that later. Ask me if cats go to heaven. Ask me questions, because I'll give you the truth you need to know. I'll give you the real story. Yeah, Another time, Jesus went into the synagogue. That's the Jewish meeting place. It's like a church building. And a man with a shriveled hand. So you've seen people sometimes with a deformed hand, something that it was... there was no ability to use it. Man with a shriveled hand was there at the synagogue. Some of them were looking for a reason to accuse Jesus. Yeah, that's the story of the gospel. Rejecting Jesus is definitely one of your choices. Rejecting Jesus, man, pretty much everyone rejected him. Looking for a reason to accuse Jesus, they watched him closely to see if he would heal this man on the Sabbath. Jesus said to the man with a shriveled hand, "Stand up in front of everyone." Pretty bold. Jesus was bold. You'll find, if you examine this life of Jesus, you'll find no one like this Jesus character. So start meeting him. Meet him through Scripture. Introduce yourself. See if he isn't who he says he is. Then Jesus asked them, "Which is lawful on the Sabbath, to do good or to do evil, to save a life or to kill?" But they remained silent. He looked around at them in anger, and deeply distressed at their stubborn hearts, said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." He stretched it out, and his hand was completely restored. Then the Pharisees, obviously, then the Pharisees, rather than say, "Wow, my hand hurts too, Jesus." Then the Pharisees, obviously, it doesn't say obviously, then the Pharisees went out and began to plot with the Herodians how they might kill Jesus. This ends the reading. So Jesus heals on the Sabbath, chapter 3 of Mark. And I want you to be able to look at Scripture and see just what it is. You don't have to do, you can do some in-depth study with some people, but I want you to see right right on the face of it. It's obvious what's going on here. Jesus, like no one ever in all of history, has some kind of understanding, some kind of power, some kind of identity that he understands who he is. He's called for something. And there's nothing. He's a good Jewish man. He follows all the laws. He's somebody everybody admires. There's nothing about Jesus that you look at him and say, "Well, that guy's trouble." You do that with me. You don't do that with Jesus. Say, "That guy's trouble." But Jesus is not one to be trifled with. He does not have any problem confronting authority. And this is authority that has the power to kill. Jesus even thinks that is something that he can stand up to. Power to kill. He says, the power to kill is something given to you. If I would command it, your power is nothing before me. So Jesus goes into the synagogue. There's a man with a shriveled hand, somebody who's suffering greatly. We see suffering everywhere. And Jesus, compassionate, and the Pharisees with no compassion are looking to accuse him. And you've met people that are looking for a way to take you down. Now, I understand that you feel that the world is against you. But you can't. Everything in the world, compared to Jesus, he takes it to another level. And Jesus, clearly someone who is good, wonderful, compassionate, everything that you would admire. And they're looking to kill him too. Let him be higher. Don't try and compete in the, the world's against me status. The victim Olympics, whatever it is. Just realize that Jesus, of all the victims, he was wrongfully accused by the world. So they're watching him, so they they are looking for reasons to accuse him. He heals somebody. He says right in front of everybody, knowing everybody's watching him, right in front of him. He asks them to answer the question, what would you do? What do you think? And of course, Jesus loved to answer questions with questions. What do you think? But he wanted people to have a choice. He wanted you to wrestle with something. For goodness sakes, you're alive. You ought to be wrestling with something worthwhile. You ought to be wrestling and not just doing chores. I understand cleaning your room and being obedient and all that stuff, but you ought to be wrestling with God. That is the big task of humanity. What are you going to make of Jesus? What are you going to make when someone says you ought to live a certain way? You know what that is? They're telling you God confronts us and says, what do you think you ought to be doing? Tell me. Stand before me like Job. Stand up like a man, and I'll ask you some questions. Jesus asked the Pharisees, stand up. Let me ask you a question. Do you think it's good? Is it lawful to do good or evil on the Sabbath? Is it lawful to save or to kill? They remained silent. Jesus had a way of silencing people. I have a way when I confront people that they argue with me. Somehow I lack the amazing skill set. An apologist, some people want to be convincing about Scripture. And I'll say something to an atheist type or somebody who's not really real keen on Jesus. And I'll say, well, what do you think about Jesus? Thinking that I'm going to have some good answers. And they're like, well, what do you think about this? And I end up looking dumb. So whatever. Jesus says to the man, and Jesus is angry, distressed at their stubborn hearts. And if, stubborn heart, it's going around. It's going around. Check your heart. Stretch out your hand. The hand is restored. The Pharisees, of course. This is checking your heart. If you see somebody doing something good, do you think, why does that person deserve help? I have problems. Does it make you want to stop somebody who's doing good? What kind of thing is it for the Pharisees to say, Jesus just healed a man, we better put an end to that? Is that something true about the human condition? Is it true? Wrestle with it, for goodness sakes. Who would do that? Scripture says people do that. Religious people who understand who God is and what it means to be faithful. They want to kill Jesus for healing. So they plot against him. There you go. That's Mark 3, verses 1 through 6. Man, if you hear Jesus calling you, or if you see Jesus working and he's healing somebody, just get in line. Say, Jesus, my heart needs healing. My hand needs healing. My life needs some kind of guidance. Boy, we all are looking for a king. Pick the right one. Pick someone to follow who is truly worthy. Nobody like Jesus. So I'm negotiating with Jesus. I'll be doing that for a long time. Negotiating with Jesus because you can negotiate with him. You can come up to him and you can argue and you can wrestle with him. He's willing. He's willing to go the distance with you. So like and subscribe. Thanks very much. I'll get on to further through Mark 3. We're going to go all the way through Scripture. Like, subscribe, comment. I will talk to you later. Goodbye.